My name is Rochelle and I am native.
My name is Rushell Ferarah. I work at a regulatory authority. I'm going to opt not to say their name. Um, I do a lot of operational work, so I tend to be that go-to person when people need to figure things out. I write a lot in my day job. Surprisingly, I enjoy that. And I write a lot for myself as well, so that's cool. I have a blog. I haven't been blogging very much. I'm trying to move it to a website page to be more focused. So, but that's taking some time. So, mental health is a big deal, and I think we don't focus on it. We don't focus enough on it until it becomes an illness. So, and it's something that I didn't realize like until probably a couple years ago that I was depressed for a good year and a half out of my life, but I never knew what to call it. But I would wake up every day. It was hell to get to school. Most days I was like, okay, I'm just not even gonna bother. I was like, oh, one class today, it doesn't make any sense. And I never realized what it was until like a friend sat me down and he goes, you need to talk to somebody. But I was just going through the motions every day I get to school. It was like really difficult. Like almost every day I was just in tears for no reason. Like I couldn't figure out what it was until one of my friends says, I know somebody, you need to talk to them. I know that you look up to them. We're gonna talk. And like he called her and we had like scheduled sessions every week where I had to talk to her about my life and stuff like that until eventually I put things back together. Because I was always someone that was really, really focused. I knew what I wanted, I knew where I was going, like I felt very focused, and then just it shows you how I guess precarious mental health is. Just one thing and you just it's like those dominoes. One thing and like everything tumbles down and nothing is where it's supposed to be anymore. And I just didn't know how to deal with that because I guess I've always been happy and I didn't know how to process any other emotions. So never ending sadness that I couldn't pinpoint the cause of. It was very, very hard for me to deal with because I was like, this is not me. I don't know how to do this. So, and I think it's something that we just do not talk about at all. It's something that we don't, if we talked about it or if we allowed persons to express what they're feeling at all times instead of kind of pushing it. So it's, if you're sad, you don't need to be sad. Of course, nobody needs to be sad, but if you're sad, it's fine, it will pass. But if you don't talk about it and don't let go of it, you keep kind of recycling the same emotions over and over again. It's weird, but like with my parents, and so I'm always pretty happy. Like if something is wrong, my parents can immediately sense it, and they don't like when I feel weird. Like because maybe because it's just the three of us. I've always been treated somewhat very maturely. So I've always been very in control of like my emotions, things that I want to do. When I was doing GSAT, my parents says, "Where you want to go?" I chose what I wanted to do, and I said, this is how it's gonna work. This is the order that I'm choosing my schools in. This is the one I really want to go to. We just need to figure out how to pay for it." So I was very come to your parents with an idea solution. They'll figure out everything else, or I will figure it out. And we talked about it. Like, so I never was really treated like a child per se. I was allowed to think about things and ask questions and have opinions on almost everything. And my parents, my mother especially, she carried me everywhere she went. So if she went to the bank, I was there tagging along, and I learned to ask questions, and I was very, very curious. So it never. So when I was feeling not happy or not content, I didn't know how to kind of deal with it, because my parents are very, regardless of what you're feeling, you can move along. So they're very, you can get over it. You can work through it. But I didn't know exactly how to because I never had any feelings that I had to work through. So when I felt sad, it was like, okay, I guess it will pass. But then when it's not passing, I didn't know how to talk about it. And I always tell people that I'm a reformed emotional bottler. Because I used to be really sensitive as a child. Like I cried for everything. I used to cry all the time. Like I'm like, I don't even know why. Like I'd be running a race or something and I come last, I cry. I used to just cry. If you raise your voice, like my mom knows this. If you raise your voice, like, oh, just look like you're going to shout at me. burst out in tears. So I was really, really sensitive. And I think when I got to like prep school and I was moving into high school, I said, okay, I can't do this anymore. You can't cry for everything. And I stopped just having anything to cry for. So I just stopped probably expressing all my emotions at once, because I'm like, okay, those are really, really negative emotions and you don't need to be feeling those all the time. You can't be crying for everything. And then eventually, so you don't allow yourself to express those things. So when it gets to a point when you don't know what to do anymore, it's like, I don't know how to be anything else other than happy. But now you learn that that's okay. You can feel sad, you can feel angry, you can feel annoyed, but just don't stay that way, which is, I think, a lot of people struggle with, because you're feeling sad and you don't know how to not feel sad. People are saying, oh, but you can just do this, and it has to come from yourself. So nobody can just say tap 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 happiness. You have to eventually really, really want to feel it, but it's really difficult for some people, and depends on who they have around them and what the source of their emotions are. It really, really hard for them to accept that they can be other things. And yes, it's sometimes really hard to function like that as well. So I guess that's pretty difficult. With the work I do now, I get to kind of see a lot of different misconceptions about like mental illness and what causes it and all of that stuff. And I don't believe that as a nation or as a people we consider mental health. So we wait until people get to the mental illness stage. We're not preemptive about it. We don't try to treat it. It's very, people disregard it a lot. And it's very strange to me. Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it's not there. It may be there for somebody. Their reality is completely different from yours, but we can't put ourselves out of ourselves to see someone else's reality. And it really affects how we just interact with people, because we disregard their own experiences. So I remember, even when I was going through that, I was talking to somebody about it and they're just like, but that's not even a big deal. And I was just like, to me, I'm not saying it was monumental. Okay, I had somewhere to live. My life was okay on the outside, but to me, it was hard for me to deal with. And for somebody else to say that, I was like, I don't think I want to be your friend anymore. You're not nice. And it's very disregarding. And I think it's something that I've learned to just listen to people. Their experiences are very, very different, and how they deal with them, it may not be the way that you would, or what you would give them advice to say, don't do that. But people have their own journeys. It's just how many different types of mental illnesses and things that there are. We just don't talk about them. We wait until they get into a big deal and people are like chopping off people's heads to say, oh, we need to do something. And it speaks about our emotional intelligence as a people as well. To not see that just because you can't see how someone is feeling doesn't mean they're not feeling that. And I think it's just probably emotional intelligence and respect. Because I try to be very understanding. It's something that I work at constantly. But I try to be very understanding of people's experiences. If they tell me that they feel a certain way, I don't be like, no, you shouldn't. I'd be like, okay, explain to me. I may not agree with you, but I'm not going to try and fight you on what you feel or what you think. And I think if more people could try to be understanding, because people just have different lived experiences. So how you see or how you respond is so different from how other people see things and respond to things. So it's really, I think we just need to talk and just try to be more understanding, honestly. And to really treat mental illness as serious as we treat any physical illness. Because there are people I know, I have close friends who have serious mental illnesses. They've been on medication for it. They've come off their medication because they don't like how it makes them feel. And it affects their ability to just do the things that they need to do. And they have come to terms with it. They've some days they have relapses, some days they're going great for years, they're fine, and then it's just like, I don't know how to deal with this anymore, and your whole life becomes something. But they learn how to cope, and it's just something that we have to be supportive about. We may not understand, but just to be there is support enough for some people. And just to try and just be genuinely understanding and don't say that everybody is mad, even though we're all a little bit crazy. I actually just like redid my vision board with some help, because I'm not good at details, but my cousin is very good. And I have this quote that says fearless. And it was supposed to be one of my 2017 goals to be more brave. Because I I wouldn't think that I'm a fearful person, but there's certain things that I'm scared of. So I'm scared of driving, actually. Driving gives me anxiety. Every time I go on the wheel of a car, I'm just like, and I just start freaking out. But that's one thing that I'm focused on. I actually do have my license. I don't know how I even passed the test, but it's just something that I have to internally say, okay, this scares me, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Probably in university when I was almost about to graduate, I had no idea what I was going to do. I used to be a chemistry major, and then chemistry really was not working out for me at all. So I moved over to econ. I was planning to do an econ minor, but I was like, okay, I'll just make it a major. And I switched courses. I did summer school every year because I was like, I'm going to finish this degree in 3 years, regardless. I had an idea of where I wanted to work, but I didn't know how to get there. And it was in this weird, awkward space of I'm not sure, should I do a master's? But I don't really want to do a master's because it doesn't really make any sense to me. I'm not interested in it. And you're there in this awkward space of almost adulthood, and you're like, kind of feel very, very stuck. So that was a very, very stuck place for me. I wasn't sure like what I wanted at all. I eventually figured it out, but is that's a very strange place to be. And I usually like I did a lot of work on contracts, and usually when I was between contracts, I would be very, very fearful because I'm like, I'm not sure what my next move is. Because while you're working, you're not too thinking about what next. But when you're not working, you have months to just stay home and stare at things and try to figure things out. So that was very fearful for me. I love if young women could be more supportive to each other. I love the whole idea of a tribe. Like it's something that I've really seen how important it is. And I'd love if we could just be more supportive and more open. Women, and there's no one way to be a woman. So there's no one range of emotions that is okay and then there's another that isn't. We have to be open to all the nuanced emotional expressions and ways how people act and how people behave and just be okay with that. We have to be, I guess I would definitely say less judgmental and more understanding of how women we can be in the same situation and react completely differently, and that's okay as long as what you are doing is not directly affecting how it how I think or how I feel. That's fine. We can talk about things, and just we need to talk more and not talk at each other but talk with each other, and just all around just be more supportive of all areas of our life. So it's not just okay, I support your business, but are you okay mentally? Are And I think we have to be okay with people calling us out, but once they do it in a way that is really beneficial. Because there's some things, some destructive behaviors that we continue to do, and our friends are telling us, you, this is really what's happening, but we don't think it comes from a good place, so we don't take their advice. Sometimes it does, but we just don't know how to see it that way because it's something negative. So something negative can come from a good place. So it's just how to understand that and just to be very, very supportive of each other because it's a rough world out there. So we're definitely going to need each other and need the support and all of the energy that we have to bring towards the world. So I think we just definitely have to be very, very, very supportive as we go forward.